Good morning to all. How are you doing today? We welcome you this morning to the Unitarian Universalist Fellowship of Northern Nevada, where it is our mission to grow together in love, faith, justice, and joy. My name is Xiomara Rodriguez. My pronouns are she, her, and ella. I am honored to serve as your worship associate today. Today, we're meeting in the ancestral lands of the Paiute, Shoshone, and Washoe people, the original stewards of these lands. I ask you to join me in acknowledging their heritage, their community, their elders, both past and present, as well as the future generations. This acknowledgement demonstrates a commitment to begin the process of working together for a better future. February is Black History Month, and it's also Justice and Equity Month. Martin Luther King Jr. said about justice, "Injustice anywhere is a threat to justice everywhere." Rosa Parks said, "I would like to be known as a person who is concerned about freedom, equity, and justice and prosperity for all people." Desmond Tutu said, if you're neutral in situations of injustice, you have chosen the side of the oppressor. Everything okay? Okay, awesome. That is awesome. That is great. I wish I had my sister close by. Awesome. Pope Paul VI said, "If you want peace, work for justice." With these words, I would like to welcome you all here. No matter where you are today, if inside the sanctuary or in the airwaves or on Zoom, we welcome you here regardless of racial identity, age, economic circumstances, immigration status, sexual orientations, or gender ID. If this is your first time or your 150th time, we are glad that you are here. We welcome you, and we are so glad to see you. We ask that you respect all the wishes of the people who choose to continue to social distance, practice open communication with one another, and be intentional about honoring persons' boundaries. For those of you on Zoom, stay following the service for coffee time and time for conversation. So no matter where you are today, we welcome you. And like always, we have a few announcements. So number one, the back door by the daycare is going to be closed. If you have the code to come in, you could come in through there. If not, come around through the front. Please, it's security. Our kids are back there. And if they come through back there, our kids are back there. So that's security. Just if you don't have the code, come around through the front and come in, security purposes. Also, the library committee will be sponsoring a discussion group for this Friday evening at 6:30 to 8, beginning on March, okay? See Sylvia back there, Sylvia? And she will give you more information about it, okay? So Sylvia is back there, and she will help you out with it. March 8th is International Women's Day. It will be here it's sponsored by Tu Casa Latina, Domestic Violence, and many other organizations. It starts at 11 o'clock here through 2 p.m. Please come and help. It's a lot of activities. Assembly Against Fascism in Carson City Capitol tomorrow, November, multiple sponsors. So show up and protest. Peacefully, please, peacefully. Like I tell my kids, I don't have bail money. Remember to fill out the joys and concerns card in the back. and give it either to me or to Chris during the greeting time. Also, please, for newcomers, fill out the visiting, the yellow card that's in front of the seats in front of you. Fill them out so you could get the newsletter. It's awesome, and it gives you a lot of good information. Now, Nancy, you're on.
Good morning. My name's Nancy Oakley. I'm the co-president of the Board of Trustees, and so happy to see you and be here. Just a couple things. Our stewardship campaign will have a big kickoff on February 23rd. We're going to have a brunch after service, and we'd like to invite you all here. And there'll be many ways to get more information about this upcoming pledge drive. We mailed out a letter yesterday that kind of explains what we're looking for this year and the money that we're going to need to raise. It's very critical, as you know. We actually have some pledge forms in the back of the chair. If you'd like to grab one, we'll be happy to provide it to you in any form. So look for our brunch, though. That'll be fun on the 23rd. And also, as a representative of the board, we kind of in the background see what's happening and think about all the great things that are going on here, and like to call out some of those areas that really sustain us and make us who we are. And today, I would like to recognize all of our membership committee and our greeters. If I know you're here, some of you, if you'd like to stand, we'd like to honor you for, like Zia Mara said, we hope that everyone here, yes, stand up, there's a lot of you. I mean, welcoming is a foundation of our organization and our fellowship, and this group of people works in so many ways. Hopefully you felt welcomed when you came the first time, the second time, the third time, and they greet you, they talk to you, they follow up if we don't see you for a while and we miss you. They have social gatherings for everybody to meet and greet and get to know each other. So many ways, and actually, we really wouldn't be a welcoming community without this group of people, and they're always welcoming to have some more folks join too. So the board really, on behalf of the whole congregation, just wants to give you all a huge thank you. We appreciate you so much. Thank you.
It's time for a climate note this morning. Good morning. Is anybody here feeling any climate stress by any chance, by raise of hand? There are, yes, you are there, and you're not alone. The majority of the people in the world fear that climate change poses a threat to their way of life. This is scary stuff, really. It's coming to the point of a spiritual crisis that can leave us stymied and unable to act. So how do we go from despair to encouragement? First, let's acknowledge those fears. Ask yourself, what don't I want to lose because of climate change? Talk about your feelings, write about them, create a painting, or plant a tree. Perhaps take a calming walk in nature and think about how you want the world to be. Seek the spiritual strength to mend that part of the world that you can reach. There's no better way, there's no better antidote to fear than action, and no better place to start than right here at UUFNN. The members of the Green Earth Sanctuary can encourage you to release your fears and enliven you to the joy and the power of stepping forward together to do what we can to protect life on Earth. You are invited to come as our guest to the next meeting, which just happens to be next Sunday, February 21st. I was going to say right after the service, but I think perhaps after the brunch. So feel free to sit in with no pressure. So, great. We look forward to seeing you there. Thank you.
And now, let's take a couple of minutes to greet one another in whichever way is better for you, with a hug, a handshake, a bump, fist bump, or whatever. I will ring our bell to let you know it's time to come back.
Welcome. My name is Chris Pecars, and my pronouns are he, his, him, and I'm glad to be serving as your worship leader today. I don't know why President's Day is the holiday for furniture purchases, but I hope all of you are heading out after the service to take advantage of the low, low prices and 0% financing on mattresses and couches. I was sick most of last week with your typical cold symptoms, cough, congestion, scratchy throat. I didn't test positive for any of the name brand illnesses, so no COVID, no RSV, no flu. I have to say, while I didn't enjoy being sick, it was almost refreshing to have just a generic crud, a reminder that not every sneeze leads to the emergency room. As I was lazing in my living room on Thursday watching the weather, I was reminded of what a luxury it is to be warm and comfortable, especially while nursing a cold. My heart went out to those who were out in the storm for reasons beyond their control, and I hope they had found shelter away from the slush and snow. During my reflection today, I'll be talking quite a bit about our unhoused population and my interactions with them when I was in my late teens. And now I'd like to invite my friend Ziamara to come and help us light our chalice today. Today's chalice lighting words are from Into the Circle by the Reverend Dr. David Breeden. We gather into this circle. We gather into this circle of care to dream, to envision, to embody and achieve the compassion we dream, the justice we envision, the dignity of each in an ever-growing circle of love and justice. And now, please rise in body and spirit, and join our choir in singing hymn number 123, The Spirit of Life.
The story for all ages. I really like the story, and it, in a way, touched me very closely. But I'll let you figure things out. It's called Milan Norsadim Feeds His Coat. It's from the Middle Eastern Islamic folk tales. Milan Nusayri had been working in the fields all day long. He was tired, sweaty, and his clothes and shoes were covered with mud and stain. Because he had been fasting all day long for Ramadan, he also was quite hungry. But finally, it was almost time for sundown, and Nasreen knew that he would soon be able to eat. The wealthiest man in town had invited everyone to come to break their fast in his home that evening with a huge feast. Nasreen knew he would be late if he went home to change his clothes before heading into town. He decided it was better to arrive in dirty clothes than to be late. Oh, what a party was going to be! What a feast! As he walked to the wealthiest man's house, Nasreen imagined the delicious foods that he would be soon eating: dates, lentil, chicken peas, olives, bread, hummus, falafel, chicken, and beef. The best of all, the desserts: halva, date rolls, figs, baklava. When Nasreen arrived, the wealthiest man opened the door and looked Nasreen up and down, scornfully, for he was worn ragged clothes down to his muddy shoes. Without a word of welcome, he gestured Nasreen to come in and walk abruptly away. Nasreen joined the throngs of people who were all dressed in their finest clothing. The tables were laden with all sorts of delicious foods: dates and lentil and chickpeas and olives and breads and hummus, falafel, chicken and beef. The best of all, the desserts: halva, dates rolled, figs, baklava. Despite his effort to hurry to sit, where all seats were taken and nobody tried to move over to make space for Nasreen. In fact, nobody offered him food. He had to reach over and around people to get any food for his plate. Nobody spoke to him. It was as if he wasn't even there. The other guests ignored him completely, and Nasreen would not enjoy the food on his plate, no matter how finely prepared and how tasty it was. In fact, after only a few bites, Nasreen was so uncomfortable that he decided to leave. He hurried home and changed into his finest clothing, including a beautiful coat. Nasreen returned to the feast, and this time the host welcomed him in with a huge smile. "Come on in," he greeted. Nasreen entered. People waved and called for him from all corners of the room as they invited him to sit near them and offered him food. Nasreen sat down quietly. Picking up a plum fig, he carefully placed it in his coat pocket, saying, "Eat, coat, eat." Next, he took a handful of nuts and put them in another pocket of his coat, saying, "Eat, coat, eat." Now he began to feed his coat in earnest, grabbing all sorts of food. He fed the cold lentils and chicken peas and olives and bread and hummus, falafel, chicken and beef, and the best of all, the desserts: halva, date rolls, figs, and baklava. Nasreen became silent as the people around him watched his strange behavior. Soon everybody in the room was staring at Nasreen, wondering what he was doing. The host hurried over. "Nasreen, what are you doing? Why are you feeding your coat in that manner?" "Well," replied Nasreen, "when I first came to this feast, in my old farming clothes, I was not welcome. No one would speak to me, but when I changed into my coat, suddenly I was greeted warmly. So I realized it was not me that was welcome at this party, but my clothing. And so I am feeding my coat.
Now is our time for prayer and meditation. I have one joy and concern, actually a concern to lift up. Please hold Emily Montan in your heart today. Emily had major surgery earlier this week, so send lots of healing thoughts her way. Today's meditation is from Cultivating Compassion, How to Love Yourself and Others, written by the Buddhist monk Thich Nhat Hanh. I dedicated an entire reflection to this meditation a couple of years ago, and this is the portion of the meditation where you cultivate love for yourself. So take a moment to relax into your chair. Ground yourself. Relax your arms, your feet flat on the floor. Close your eyes if you wish. Feel the tug of gravity and let your body connect to the earth below. As you focus your mind inward, take in a deep breath and exhale. And another deep breath and exhale. Repeat each of these aspirations to yourself as I read them. May I be peaceful, happy, and light in body and spirit. May I be peaceful, happy, and light in body and spirit. May I be peaceful, happy, and light in body and spirit. May I be safe and free from injury. May I be safe and free from injury. May I be safe and free from injury. And finally, the last aspiration. May I be free from anger, afflictions, fear, and anxiety. May I be free from anger, afflictions, fear, and anxiety. May I be free from anger, afflictions, fear, and anxiety. Hold each of these aspirations in your mind. Know that you deserve love, and that first and foremost, that love comes from yourself to yourself. And now, in your own time, allow yourself to return your attention to this room. If you want, you can roll your head a couple of times, stretch your shoulders, roll your shoulders, flex your arms and your legs. Thank you, and blessings be.
There will be
Thank you, Samantha, and our choir. I have a confession to make. I have not always been the kind, compassionate person you see standing before you today. In fact, when I was in my late teens, I was a bit of a punk, an angry young man who was certain that I knew the world better than any of the adults around me. I'm pretty sure I'm the only teenager who ever felt this way. Since I was smarter than everybody else, I did what all smart people do, which is to not take any advice from anybody. As I approached high school graduation, I didn't consult with my teachers, my parents, or my guidance counselor on what I was going to do after high school. It eventually dawned on me that all my friends were moving on, and I didn't have a plan of my own for life after high school. Fortunately, the University of Nevada bailed me out. They had a program back in 1984 where if your SAT scores were above a certain mark, they automatically admitted you. So not only did I receive in the mail an application for admission, they had generously filled that application out for me. All I had to do was sign it and send them a check for $25, and so hurrah, I was headed off to college. I did not do very well in my first semester of college. While I passed my classes, I didn't enjoy the experience. At the time, I was still living with my parents, and the expectation was that I was going to continue going to college, which, by the way, they were also paying for. So I dutifully signed up for the winter semester, and my parents gave me a check for my tuition. A couple of days later, I went back to the registrar's office and dropped my class. I did not tell my parents. I'm also not proud to say that I pocketed the refunded class fees and kept their tuition payment for myself. To complicate matters further, the previous summer I had gotten a DUI. I did not have either a car or a driver's license. Conveniently, my mom worked close to the university, so she could drop me off at school every morning. So long story short, for the next 4 months, I had to pretend to go to college. When the weather was bad, I would hang out on campus, either in the library or at the student union. If it was just merely cold, I took to walking around Reno and reading. I would walk for miles, barely aware of the world, my nose in a book, reading as I walk, and trying to get a handle on why the world worked the way it did, why bad things happened. I read Friedrich Nietzsche's Beyond Good and Evil, Immanuel Kant's Critique of Pure Reason, Atlas Shrugged by Ayn Rand, Niccolo Machiavellian's The Prince, 1984 by George Orwell, all really good stuff for an angry young man to read while stomping around Reno in the cold. I was difficult to live with and live around, lashing out at those close to me, my friends, my family, with no good reason for doing so, frustrated with a world whose complexities I didn't understand. I found out later that many of my friends joked among themselves that I would get accidentally killed by walking into traffic with my nose stuck in a book. This is what I like to call my rebel without a clue phase. I wore this army drab, army surplus jacket that used to belong to my older brother, who, by the way, was legitimately off at college during this time frame. Since he was much bigger than me, it was almost like I was walking around in my own personal tent. Since I was a rebel, I took up smoking, and since it was cold and I got hungry on my walks, I'd stop by McDonald's, buy a couple of cheeseburgers, and stuff them into the cavernous pockets of this jacket. And when I got tired of walking, I would sit in one of the many parks around town, smoking, reading, and munching on cheeseburgers. I was enough of a fixture downtown that some of the other residents of the streets began to notice me. Whether they were unhoused or just adrift like me, I don't really know. But folks would see me sitting in some park or another, and eventually they'd start stopping by and hit me up for a cigarette. Many of them eventually also figured out that I had cheeseburgers in my pockets, so I'd get asked for cheeseburgers as well. Eventually, I was buying 5 or 6 cheeseburgers and a couple of packs of cigarettes to share around. The reality was I was depressed and lonely, and so I welcomed the company and was just happy to have anyone else to sit with and talk to. While I was not actually homeless, I slept in my parents' house, I ate breakfast and dinner there, had enough money to buy cheeseburgers and cigarettes, but still, that winter was the first time that I really began to see the humanity in the stranger, in people I had not had contact with before in my life. I learned to recognize that regardless of our circumstances, we were all deserving of compassion and love. So I guess that winter wasn't time wasted after all. Ever since my winter of rebellion, I've spent a lot of time thinking about people who are unhoused. Every time I see someone pushing a shopping cart full of their possessions, pass a tent camp, or notice a person soliciting donations on a free off-ramp or in front of Barnes & Noble, I feel like our society has failed them and that we can do better. I know the reasons why people lose their housing or ask for donations in front of stores or on street corners are varied and nuanced, and I'm realizing I'm simplifying some things, but I don't have all day to talk to you. So let me just take a moment to talk about a couple of typical situations that lead to a person being unhoused or that afflicts them once they're unhoused. Many people perceive that the homeless are addicted to either alcohol or to other drugs, and that's actually not a wrong assumption. It's estimated that up to 40% of the unhoused population significantly abuse alcohol or drugs. Ironically, though, substance abuse disorder may not be the cause of a person becoming unhoused. It's just as likely that the person begins substance abuse after they become unhoused. And the reason for this is that they are often self-medicating, dealing with the discomfort and stress of living on the street or treating either mental or physical illness. Years ago, substance abuse disorder was generally thought of as a personal failure, a lack of willpower or self-control. Today, medical science now identifies a whole host of reasons for substance abuse disorder. Genetics plays a part, mental health conditions such as PTSD or depression, childhood poverty, adverse childhood experiences, social disconnection, underemployment, or peer and parental drug use can all contribute to somebody falling to substance abuse disorder. Like many problems, preventing substance abuse disorder is much more cost-effective than treating it. And since it is such a complex disorder, many avenues are needed to reduce the problem. Reducing childhood poverty with programs such as the Biden administration's childhood tax credit, combined with other childhood programs such as Head Start and universal pre-K classes, social interventions for struggling teens, early and reliable treatment for mental illness, and job and trade training for older teens and young adults are all proven to lead to better life outcomes and higher income attainment, and a substantial reduction in substance abuse disorder and deaths of despair. It is estimated that for every dollar spent on these initiatives, we save between $5 and $10 down the road, dollars that would have been spent on incarceration, emergency room visits, addiction recovery, and rehousing. But what often gets missed in these conversations is the larger benefit to our society as a whole. While my main point is about how these programs restore justice and equity to those who might end up suffering from substance abuse disorder and how to prevent people from becoming unhoused, there are literally millions and millions of other lives that are significantly improved by these programs, lives that would not become unhoused or addicted to drugs. Our entire community, our entire nation rises around us when we work to prevent and solve even this one particular problem. Far from being just a handout, these programs rest in an investment in the future success of our society and our communities. Another cause of becoming unhoused is economic calamity. We're all familiar with the phrase living paycheck to paycheck. And it is in this precarious situation, particularly being underemployed and having insufficient savings to compensate for a traumatic event, that a person can lose their housing. A minor mistake, like getting into a bar fight and becoming incarcerated for a month or two, an unplanned major medical expense, or even something as simple as losing reliable transportation, can all it takes to knock someone off their feet and onto the streets. However, the very same programs I just talked about that help prevent substance abuse disorder, reducing childhood poverty, improving childhood outcomes, social interventions, jobs and job training, all reduce or eliminate unemployment and increase lifetime job earnings. I'm beginning to sound a bit like a politician here, but good jobs mean good lives, and good jobs need skilled and trained workers. Again, providing these programs not only reduces the likelihood of someone becoming unhoused, but it creates a community with people who will build our houses, maintain our infrastructure, and come together to enrich all of our lives, not just those who these programs directly touch. I'm not really telling anybody here anything that they didn't already know. And likewise, I'm pretty sure that you're all aware that the kinds of programs I'm talking about are either already under attack or likely to come under attack by the current administration. And there's a lot of people out there who are under the misconception that helping the unhoused, helping the victims of substance abuse disorder is a waste of money. And that's just simply not true. Inequity affects all of us in a myriad assortment of negative ways, erodes the foundations of our communities and of our country. Conversely, raising people up, supporting and funding justice and equity initiatives all have the exact opposite effect. The hand that helps our neighbor helps us all. Thank you.
Thank you, Chris. As we approach the time of our offering, give what you will for the church that has meant so much to you, for the church that meant so much for those who came before you, and for the church that will mean so much to people who you will never know. Give what you will, for you are generous people. For those of us here physically, in the sanctuary, we'll be passing the basket. For those of you on Zoom, you can do your offering virtually. Just follow the instructions on the slides. Here at UUFNN, each month, we also give folks the opportunity to share our generosity by sharing with a designated nonprofit organization. The Share the Plate recipient for the month of February is Cancer Community Clubhouse. This organization serves over 400 local cancer survivors, along with their care partners and loved ones, by providing evidence information programs aimed to improving equality of life. Programs include mental health in English and Spanish, Cancer Fit, peer support groups, mindfulness, wellness practices, and educational workshops. They have dedicated clubhouses, spaces where they provide programming Monday through Saturday. Thank you for your generosity. Now let the offering begin. And now if you all could help me and Jackie with the blessing of our offering to the work of this fellowship.
And now is the time in our service when we extinguish our chalice. Please rise in body and or spirit and join our choir in singing song number 1008, When Our Heart is in a Holy Place.
Trust the wisdom in each of us, every color, every creed and kind. And we see our faces in each other's eyes. When our heart is in a holy place. When our heart is in a holy place. When our heart is in a holy place. We are blessed with love and amazing grace. When our heart is in a holy place, when we tell our story from deep inside, and we listen with a loving mind, and we hear our voices in each other's words. When our heart is in a holy place, when our heart is in a holy place, when our heart is in a holy place. We are blessed with love and amazing grace. When our heart is in a holy place. When we share the silence of sacred space, and the God of our hearts is within, and we feel the power of each other's faith. When our heart is in a holy place. When our heart is in a holy place. When our heart is in a holy place. We are blessed with love and amazing grace. When our heart is in a holy place. When our heart is in a holy place.
Please remain standing for our benedictions. If you're comfortable, feel free to join hands. If you'd rather not join hands, simply cross your hands over your heart like so. Let us close our time together with the reminder that justice and equity are spiritual practices for us to embrace every day. When justice and equity ground us in all that we do, we carry the light and warmth of the chalice with us in our hearts. Our worship is over. Let our service begin. Amen. Blessed be. Namaste.